Welcome to this video on behaviour management at Castle School. This video is one of a series that we have produced to help parents better understand the behaviour management approaches that we use at Castle School, and hopefully to give some food for thought and some tips on behaviour management techniques that can be used at home. This particular video is all about how we gain compliance, how we gain cooperation from children in school, and how we avoid these moments where we get refusals, hitting, maybe overreactions, screaming, sulking, tantrums, protests, strops, arguing, and any other way of children not complying with our requests or demands. So I've boiled all this down to one particular phrase, which is, it's the art of avoiding the no. We want to avoid children saying no to us and gain compliance and cooperation from them. So what follows is strategies to get children to do what you want them to do and not say no in any way at all. And we have 34 tips, so I'm going to give quite a whistle-stop tour of just these 34 tips. But before I do, there is one thing that we need to recognize, which is we need to make sure that what we're asking our children to do is reasonable. For example, asking a child just to sit still for 10 minutes might be reasonable for some children, but for other children it might be way beyond them, and to ask them to do that is only going to end in tears, maybe on both sides of the equation, as it were. So here are a few things that often work. I've put often because they don't always work for all children in all situations. You have to tailor what you're doing to each child's abilities, interests, communication styles, and so on. So the first one is we can offer them a choice. Giving children a choice might soften the idea that we're giving them an order, and therefore they might be more willing to comply with the choices that we are giving them. And of course, sometimes we restrict the choice, so we might not say, do you want to work or do you want to take it easy, but we might say, do you want to work on some maths or do you want to work on some English? And that's the choice they've got. And just feeling that they've got a choice might gain compliance more readily. We use humor a lot. Things tend to go better if everyone's enjoying themselves, having a bit of a laugh. We change the mood. It's important to avoid a sense of serious confrontation. So sometimes just changing the atmosphere in the room with a break or a joke or just a few deep breaths can change the mood and take away that sense of that there's a confrontation and a big no about to happen. We at school often have the ability to change face, by which we mean if one member of staff is trying to get a child to do something like put their coat on to go home and they're struggling, it might be that another member of staff has more success. So we just change face. We don't get precious about making sure that the child does it for us. If they're going to comply with another person, we do that readily. I appreciate that might not be easy at home. We change place as well. So asking a child to work in one situation, maybe getting a big fat no from them, but taking them into a quieter room or sitting outside, asking them to do the work in a different place may help to get compliance. Giving them time is incredibly important. Giving them time to process what you're asking them. So often we give them a warning about what's about to happen. If it's the end of one activity, we might give them a 5-minute warning. We might even give them a timer, and then we give them time to process that thought, rather than just telling them and expecting them to comply straight away. And giving yourself time is equally important. So sometimes it's important for us to give a request to a child and then walk away and make sure that we're calm, and that it hasn't become overly important to get compliance from that child right then, right there. Giving them ownership of some work, of the choices, I beg your pardon, is really important. So if we've got 3 tasks for them to do, we might ask them to choose the order in which they do them. That can work for some children. Make what you're asking them to do seem like an important job, can be really useful. So if you're going to the supermarket and they hate that, it might be that if you put them in charge of the shopping list, that could give them a sense of importance and they'll be more likely to comply. Add an element of fun. So if we stay with the supermarket, we could play I Spy or some other game while we're going round. Catching them being good is really important too. So if you've got a child who only complies with your requests half the time, spend a lot of energy praising them for when they do comply rather than for underlining when they are not complying. So giving them positive reinforcement, really important. Proximal praise is a fancy way of saying you're praising the people who are doing the right thing that is around the person who's not doing the right thing. So in a classroom, if I want children to sit up and really look at me, rather than pick on the one child that is not doing that, I can pick on the 5 or 6 children around that child who are doing it and really praise them for what they're doing, and it's likely that the child who wasn't doing it will start to sit up and look at me in the way that I want them to do. And linked to that is describing what you like to see. So for some children, they might not realize that they're not sitting up in class, so it might be important to describe exactly what sitting up looks like. It might even be important for me to model it for them. And that can be applied to anything. So describe, when you're saying what they're doing well, describe it back to them so they can really get a picture of what you're seeing and what you like to see. Avoid self-defeating talk. So don't say things like, I've told you 10 times and you still don't listen to me, because all that's doing is reinforcing that your talking is useless and and it's easy to ignore it. So don't fall into that trap. And avoid any sense of confrontation. If it starts to become really important that in your mind that you win this battle, it's probably a good sign that you need to walk away from that battle, and that it doesn't become a sort of battle of wills, because that's only going to end in one way, and that's probably us tearing our hair out. So think about changing the place, changing face, and some of the other strategies I've already mentioned, just to avoid that sense of confrontation. A few more things. If you can expect cooperation, it's a really difficult one to do this, but the better you get at getting children to cooperate, the more you expect them to do that, and the more that they will appreciate that expectation and find themselves cooperating just because you're expecting it. Again, cut out any negative talk, so absolutely no nagging. If you're just asking and asking over and over again and being ignored, all you're doing is reinforcing the fact that you're ignorable. So ask once or twice, and if you're still not getting compliance, find a different strategy. Using visual supports. There's another video in this series all around visual supports and why it's so important. For many of our children, visual supports are absolutely crucial for getting compliance out of them. So one of those could be a daily schedule where you've put all the tasks that they are going to complete that day. It might be as simple as a now and next board where you're describing what they're doing now and what you're expecting for them to do next. And if you've got these in place, then one of the advantages of that is that you can almost be on the child's side. So the visual support might be the clock. So you go to the child and say, the clock says it's time to stop play and start work. And it's kind of the clock's fault, and you can be on the child's side and, oh, well, sorry about that, but let's make this work fun. And it can make it feel like there's no confrontation at all. Report on successes. If you do get any kind of cooperation from a situation that's been difficult in the past, make sure that you describe that success to other people in the child's hearing and how happy you were and how good the child has been, and that may help. A few more things. Turn a task into a challenge. For me, tidying my bedroom was always a pain when I was a child, still is, but so I give myself a challenge and I say, see if I can do it in 5 minutes flat, or it's just anything to give it a little bit of interest. Turn everything into a win-win deal. So make sure that although you're getting what you want from the situation, the child is getting something as well. I will come on to rewards in a minute. Keep everything positive. Make sure that the child knows that you are still positive about them and the situation, and that you're looking forward to the next thing. Everything's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Life's going to be good, especially if you can get the task ahead done as effectively as possible. For some children, tick charts can work, but it's important to get those tick charts right. So in a classroom, I will put children's names on the board and only tick them when they're doing the right thing, but I look for as many right things as possible. So they might get a tick for coming in quietly, for sitting down, for looking at me. That's 3 ticks already. And if someone's not doing that, I give them a chance to earn that tick later. So it's important that you only use tick charts for positive reinforcement. I don't take ticks off. I don't add crosses if they're not doing the wrong thing. I just tick for any positive that I want to see. For some children, especially those children with autism, written instructions can be much more effective than verbal instructions. So for some of our children, either a symbol or actual written words might be absolutely crucial to gain compliance. Okay, we have a few tips around rewards. Rewards always sound like a good idea, but they need to be used really carefully, and you need to be very careful about the message that you're giving with rewards. And I've realized that it's often about the recognition that comes with the reward rather than the reward itself. It's about children really like it when they're being recognized as doing well and and getting rewards from parents or other people who are important in their lives. We need to praise the work and effort rather than label a person. So, for example, if a child brings some work to me for feedback, I'll much rather say, oh, this work is fantastic. You've put lots of effort into this. It must have taken you a long time. I can see how hard you've worked. rather than say, wow, you're really clever, because labeling the person can, for some children, bring added pressures. That child might go away and think, well, I don't think I'm really clever. Oh, the next piece of work, I've got to prove again that I'm clever. And that might clash with their image of themselves. So far better to praise the work itself. And make sure that your rewards work. Just like Goldilocks and the porridge shouldn't be too hot or too cold, the rewards shouldn't be too hard or too easy. We need to make sure that the rewards are largely achievable for them to work. Otherwise, the child's going to get disappointed and stop trying. Once we give a reward, we never take it away. So if you're operating a reward system, that means they have to earn 5 stars, for example, and they do 4 things good and you give them 4 stars, and then they do something you don't like, you don't take those stars away. You just wait until the next time that everything's back on track and they're doing something good again, you give them the 5th star. And the best rewards are fast and exciting. So yeah, if you can make them immediate and yeah, fun for the child, then you've got a win-win situation. Okay, that was 34 tips. I realize it's taken quite a long time. Thank you for listening. One last message. Please realize that you're not alone. We have lots of parents who come into the school and wanting to discuss behavior management, and probably the most essential message they often get from that is that it's not just their child that sometimes has problems with behavior. Everyone does, even adults. So it's always good to talk. So if you want any more information, please contact the school. That's it. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.